Hi everybody, welcome to the QB School. I am JT O'Sullivan. Today, 2022 NFL quarterback draft rankings fired up, locked in. Let's get it going. Welcome to the QB School. So it is finally here, the Quarterback School 2022 draft rankings. This is by far the most asked for video that I get every single year, and by far the one that I dread the most for a number of different reasons. But excited to share it. Certainly fun to see the kind of evolution of what this class looks like as far as the lens of the Quarterback School, and excited to share it. I think some things will probably come across as pretty obvious. Other things that might surprise some people. I'll talk through a little bit about kind of the process of it at the end of this thing, if you're interested to see kind of where people moved, who moved up, who moved down, but you'll probably be able to tell right from the jump. I think it's also important to set some kind of guardrails here as far as what this is and this isn't. This is by no means a mock draft. Not at all. This is basically the order that I would take the quarterbacks in, for whatever that's worth. Obviously, it is a massively incomplete analysis. And what I mean by that is it is only based on the film, the All-22 film that I have watched and shared on this channel. I don't have a bank of stored videos that I haven't shared that I'm so excited to have more information than anybody else who watches the channel. Everything that I've watched, I've shared on the channel. So it's based on those evaluations. Furthermore, the teams obviously would be doing significantly more research, studying these players, getting to know these players personally, the meetings, conversations with coaches, trainers, high school coaches, college coaches, position coaches, and then projecting those players into their system. None of that is taking place here. I don't know any of these guys. Certainly think that a number of them are going to have the potential to be successful at the next level. Certain guys that I probably like a little bit more than others. But all of them are very good players. They're all going to get an opportunity to play on Sundays. And it's just one of those things where, unfortunately, and people love this type of stuff. I personally don't love this type of list stuff for whatever reason. I think it's just, I don't know. I'll save my opinions on this type of stuff for another video, maybe another live. But excited to kind of share what the output of all these evaluations is, just from the lens of the Quarterback School. So basically the players that I would want in order. So let's see if I can do this off the top of my head. No surprise here, Malik Willis. Number 2, Desmond Ritter. Number 3, Sam Howell. Number 4, Kenny Pickett. Next, Matt Corral, then Carson Strong, Bailey Zappy, and finally Brock Purdy. And so there are certainly a number of other quarterbacks that will get an opportunity. Those are the guys that I watched the most film of. Maybe I watched all the film of. Maybe a few outliers that I didn't mention, but those are the guys that I got an opportunity to watch a little bit of. And excited to kind of break down exactly how I came to that kind of list. And so let's just go right down the order, see if we can keep this thing simple and moving. Malik Willis, in my opinion, by far the most athletic, dynamic, highest ceiling, whatever phrase you want to say, as far as what I consider the best weapon available at the quarterback position, as far as being able to spin it, arm, athletic ability, able to run. He's a truck, breaking tackles. All of those things I think will translate. It will morph a little bit, but in reality, he is that special of an athlete, that special of a player. I think some things to be, obviously a little bit concerned with is just a few things. Obviously, it didn't work out at Auburn. I don't know why. I don't care. I didn't look into it, but it didn't. Doesn't mean that it's a deal breaker by any means. It didn't work out for Joe Burrow at Ohio State. Doesn't work out for people even more and more nowadays. I think the transfer thing is less and less of an issue. The Liberty offense, is it carry the same volume that you will have on Sundays? No. Does anybody carry the same offense, the volume of offense on a college football program as an NFL team? No. Get over it. I think that there will be a little bit more of what I would consider consistency, throwing the ball from within the pocket, that will evolve or quickly evolve for him and what that looks like. But man, is he going to be able to bail out of some trouble issues with what he brings to the table, running it, creating plays off platform, being a threat to the defense in their quarterback run game? Hell yes. Now the bummer is he's probably going to go to a really bad team. So do I wish anybody to go to the Carolina Panthers right here now? No. There are a few teams that I wish no quarterbacks the pain to suffer through. But Again, probably another video. But that's just the reality of being the best player, best quarterback in the draft. You're probably going to go to a team that is not very good if they need a quarterback. So good luck with that. No, seriously, I'm pulling for him. I'll talk a little bit about how the top of this thing shaped out for me, because he wasn't always necessarily the top. And I think, whether it's because you don't get a chance to watch somebody who plays at Liberty, or I don't get a chance to watch somebody who plays at Liberty very often in the fall, if at all, to be able to go back, see the film. I'm sure that there will be some, murmurs about level of competition or things like that. I think that the things that he shows on film translate to Sundays. The explosiveness, the athletic ability, his ability to the quick release, the snap throw, the ability to make a number of throws, if not all the throws, easily transferable. Now, where does he go? All of those things, the coaches surrounded him, a lot of that is luck, and a lot of it is going to be to a bad team. So good luck with the first few years. Next, Desmond Ritter. To me, he is one of those players that really was kind of all over the board for me, as far as, this list, when I kind of penciled this thing in starting in maybe late February, and just kind of, as I see more and more film, just kind of comparing and contrasting where this thing falls. He is definitely someone who was on the upward surge. And maybe that's because I saw the end of the year, saw the Alabama game, but really going back and watching the Alabama game, understanding what really happened at the line of scrimmage, and just surrounded by kind of deficient talent compared to, obviously, Alabama. I think I just kind of looked at it from a refreshed lens, and then going back to watch more and more of his games. There's just a lot that I think translates to Sundays, whether it's his ability to run that offense, to see how he's controlling things, to see his ability to create out of structure, to run the rock himself, to be able to bail himself out of issues. And then there are a lot of really nice throws. There are. Now, there are some college open throws, and this is a big but, okay? But the anticipation issues are a real issue. I don't want to put that to the side, make sure I name the elephant in the room. There are some accuracy issues, and really they're seemingly, to me, at damn near every level. Now, I want to be really clear here. You can get you can go sideways really quick here, and I don't love the comparison game, and you probably get that because I try not to compare guys very often. But when you think of accuracy improvement, I think anybody who is familiar with the quarterback position in recent ball is going to say, hey, Josh Allen did it, Josh Allen did this. Well, you got to be really careful comparing guys to who are essentially unicorns or outliers. I think it's hard to improve your accuracy. I will say that I think it has gotten better recently. I think as he gets more and more of a professional approach as far as the craft, the throwing mechanics, all of the things that go into the footwork, the offense, what that looks like, I am hopeful. I think that there are enough of the throws there that he does make where you're like, it's not a deficient arm, it's not a deficient capacity, it's just a consistency element. And so that part of it, to me, and his size and what he brings to the table as far as being able to run the rock, the athletic ability, to me, was kind of the key indicators for his surge up this list for me. So Desmond Ritter, number 2, certainly excited to see exactly where he lands. And then Sam Howell here at number 3. This really does kind of probably take the most amount of storytelling for me to kind of say exactly where he slotted with this, and probably who I had the most trouble with, because I think it's important to kind of name my biases right out the gate. I'm a fan of Sam Howell. I'm a fan of how he's played for a number of years, a guy who's been really productive at a high level for a long time. And for whatever reason, this year, probably many more variables than I can list in this video, North Carolina wasn't very good this year. And he didn't play very well either. And that's the hard reality of turning on the film. Now, does that take away from everything else? No. Is it a big concern that someone essentially kind of regresses performance-wise? Yeah, hell yeah it is. And so you got to really go back and unpack what the hell is going on. Now, I certainly have some issues with the offense and what that offense has evolved into, and I certainly think that there were deficient both up front and on the perimeter compared to years past for him, and he didn't play as well as I would have hoped and expected. That doesn't take away from the other things that he has done up until that point, the productivity along his career, his capacity to, I still think, be a really special player. got some beautiful deep balls, has got the ability to create on his own, can run it a little bit. Probably not the pure runner that Malik Willis, Desmond Ritter can be in the open field, but he can also probably run the rock in the red area or in short yardage, and has the perception of a quarterback run game as the league continues to evolve in that shape and what that looks like. And so I'm still a big fan of Sam Howell. I just think that, you know, at one point I was like, oh, this is my guy, this class. Like I've fallen in, like, there's a lot to like. And then you watch the 21 film and you're like, oh, you know, what the hell is happening? How is this possible? And whether it's, you know, too high of expectations for myself, from others, but I think his film in previous years was really good. He was consistent. He was more accurate than the film showed this past year. It was a thing of maybe less, you know, maybe trying to play a little bit of hero ball or try too hard or force things in. And that's sometimes what happens when you feel like you got to carry a squad or your perimeter players aren't quite the same level that you're accustomed to. But that's not a good enough excuse to have the dip in the performance to be at the top of the class. And so for me, you know, he might end up being, and he probably still is, one of my favorite in this class. I can't put him any higher. I can't really project him to be better at this point coming off that season compared to Malik Willis and Desmond Ritter. That's kind of why he falls at 3. The next one, Kenny Pickett, coming in at 4. Obviously a great senior year, super senior year. You know, however old he is, he's old, you know, oldish. Fun to see a guy stick it out somewhere and have a really great career and have a really nice last senior season. You know, whether it's a super senior, whether you're, you know, you might be older than some of the guys who have been in the league that you're competing with for a starting spot, and they've been in the league for, you know, 2-3 years, depending on what team he ends up with. I also don't think that he necessarily has the kind of pop up the film talent that you would associate with the top tier of guys in the league nowadays. That's just the straight up truth. As far as arm talent, as far as being, it's not that he can't create. I think he can create. But as far as those kind of throws where you're like, man, is this guy going to put an organization, a city, a franchise on his back for a playoff run, for, you know, a season, for multiple seasons, for half a decade, for a decade, those types of things? I personally don't see it. That doesn't take away anything about his last year, about the improvement. I think it's worth noting, if we're going to talk about, you know, certain guys not playing as well as the surrounding cast. I think his surrounding cast on the perimeter was pretty damn good. I think that conference was down. Yeah, I mean, that all of those things play a factor into it. But when we're projecting to Sundays, you know, just because someone might come in and have the most kind of the easiest transition into playing immediately, to me, doesn't necessarily match up to what I think longevity, the ability to produce over the course of a career in the league, weighs in the same amount of weight. And I think the guys ahead of him just have higher ceilings, have the ability to maybe create more, to be a little bit more dynamic, to be a little bit more consistent down the field with their accuracy and what those things look like. Everyone except Desmond Ritter necessarily as far as the consistency, but as far as the ability to make certain throws that maybe Kenny Pickett doesn't necessarily have in the bag right now. That's kind of why he slots here. It doesn't take anything away from his senior year. I think you turn on the film, and I personally was a little surprised just how good the film was. And so I certainly think that he's warranted to be near the top of this draft class. But for me, as far as projecting what the next decade in the league looks like, does it look like, you know, 10 years of Kenny Pickett killing it every single Sunday? No. Good for him if he does. You know, I certainly don't pretend to be right all the time by any means, but I'm just looking at the film and what the film says about throws and playing style and the capacity to translate that to Sunday. Not as much as the other guys. Now we get into kind of the lower tier here of what this class looks like for me, and not necessarily the lower tier, just the bottom half of this little list. And really, I'm going to talk about Matt Corral and Carson Strong together. Really because I think that they both kind of fit into the same bucket for me, but for different reasons. They're not necessarily similar players by any means. I think Matt Corral is a really crafty, good player when he's in there. I think that their offense is a lot of fun, a lot of RPOs, a lot of double moves. Does that translate directly to Sunday? Maybe, you know, if he goes to Miami or, you know, those types of things. I think that there is a place for that. I don't think that the kind of creativity that offense structures and pops guys open and taking shots down the field necessarily translates into consistent Sunday quarterback play. I also think that there's some injury issues. So that's really where we get into the issue of just being able to, can you finish a game? Can we make it through a season? It's certainly part of every quarterback's kind of arc of being able to play and be the ability to be available. That for me, every other time I turned on the film, he wasn't finishing the game, he was coming out. And to me, it was just it does become a factor when guys get bigger, stronger, faster, and you play more games. It's an issue. Is it a deal breaker? No. I think Matt Corral in the right system, just like all these guys, could be very successful. But I would love to see him just be able to drop back, go through a full field progression consistently, and be able to operate from within the pocket and stay healthy and finish a number of games that I just didn't see when I turned it on. Then Carson Strong, love his ability to throw it, really do. But man, I don't know whether he was battling some sort of leg issue. I'm not that kind of doctor, don't pretend to be that kind of doctor, but it certainly impacted his ability to move around and throw the ball his senior year. Now, I think it's kind of impressive that he's able to go out there and do that, not 100%, because it impacted, I'm going to guess, it impacted his draft stock, because he comes back and he's 100%. I think he's a better player, but he got to go out there and play with his friends, have that great college experience. There are still a number of straight up wow cannon throws that will give you a shot in the league. Now, is he healthy? I hope so. Certainly hoping everybody has the ability to stay healthy and have a great opportunity to play and not have to deal with those injuries. But man, the leg is a concern for me. And that's just watching the film. That's not any sort of medical exam, through the combine ringer, through the pro day, through any of that stuff. I have no idea. But you turn on the film and it impacts his ability to perform at a high level, or what kind of the high level guys do on Sunday. Then finally, Bailey Zappy, really cool story. Western Kentucky transfer, goes in there, balls out. They bring the staff, whatever. Really fun offense to watch. Does that translate to Sundays? I don't know. It doesn't take anything away from that cool story, that performance, the production that he had this past year, and really the few years before that, also at Houston Baptist. But man, I don't know. I think, obviously it's going to take a special scenario for him to be able to have that same production that he's had at the college level. Doesn't take anything away from the great story that it is, but I would say compared to the other guys, limited physically, limited maybe a little bit pushing the ball down the field, pushing the ball outside the numbers, certain athletic ability compared to the guys at the top of the draft. And so that's kind of where he slots here. And then finally, Brock Purdy, someone that I probably liked a lot more before this past year, got a chance to watch him. And really, again, this is tethered a little bit to just the expectations of that program, and maybe a little bit of a carryover to the similar thinking with Sam Howell, where I think that they probably expected to have better senior years. Brock Purdy probably regressed on film a little bit more than I would have even anticipated, even kind of hearing rumors and murmurs in the fall about what was going on play-wise there. But again, is that on him? Is that on their ability to run, the running back, what they are as an entire unit? Probably all of the above. But as far as the consistency for things that you see on film that translate to Sundays, to be able to project, hey, this skill set will be successful on Sundays, this past year, and really compared to all of the years in aggregate collectively, not near as much as the other guys we mentioned in this kind of list. So that's it. That's the quarterback school draft rankings. Let me know what you think. Let me know where you think I went off in the comments below. I certainly always appreciate your continued support for the channel. It means a great deal to me. Hopefully we can come back to this video in 5 years and not think that I'm kind of crazy off my rocker, but certainly excited to see what y'all think, where you think I went sideways, and excited to see what happens. The draft's around the corner. So excited to see. Thank you so much for hanging to the end. I will see you next time. Have a good one.